In one of the most anticipated Berkshire meetings in history, 90-year-old Warren Buffett and 97-year-old Charlie Munger provided us with incredible insights concerning a number of issues in the world of finance. After an unprecedented year in the world filled with all kinds of drama and developments, the pair answered dozens and dozens of questions over 3 hours. Filtering through the boredom, I decided to make a video about the juiciest, most exciting comments, the first of which involved the spectacular rise of cryptocurrency. Obviously, since we last heard from the pair in May of 2020, the crypto world has erupted in both hype and price. We knew Buffett's opinion was very bearish on the matter, as well as Munger's. So did it change in 2021? Take a listen.
The crypto market overall is valued at $2 trillion. Do you still consider cryptos as worthless artificial gold?
Well, I knew there'd be a question on Bitcoin or crypto. And I thought to myself, well, I've watched these politicians dodge questions all the time, and I always find it kind of disgusting when they do it. But the truth is, I'm going to dodge that question because we probably got hundreds of thousands of people watching this that own Bitcoin, and we probably got 2 people that are short. So we got a choice of making 400,000 people mad at us and unhappy, or making 2 people happy. And that's just a dumb equation. So I thought about it. We had a governor one time in Nebraska, and a long time ago, but he would get a tough question, what do you think about property taxes, or, what should we do about schools? And he'd look right at the person, he'd say, I'm all right on that one. And then he'd just walk off. Well, I'm all right on that one, and maybe we'll see how Charlie is.
Well, those who know me well are just waving the red flag of the bull. Of course, I hate the Bitcoin success. And I don't welcome a currency that's so useful to kidnappers and extortionists and so forth, nor do I like just shuffling out a few extra billions and billions and billions of dollars to somebody who just invented a new financial product out of thin air. So I think I should say modestly that I think the whole damn development is disgusting and contrary to the interests of civilization. And I'll leave the criticism to others.
I'm all right on that one.
In all my years looking at Buffett's and Munger's comments, this one hurts a bit. Starting with Warren. We all knew beforehand he's not a fan of cryptocurrency. In fact, he showed us with comments in the past that he hates it. But instead of arguing his case, he chooses to pass the question as if it's some kind of touchy political subject. Then he uses an example of a dirty and sneaky politician to essentially do exactly what he supposedly hates. Dodge a question and avoid. I'm not even sure what he's really avoiding. It's not like Berkshire's largest stakeholders are crypto fans. Historically speaking, it would be a much bigger controversy if Warren had made positive statements regarding a coin. Nobody would bat an eye if he made a bearish case, but instead, he does the worst thing possible. After answering tough question after tough question regarding oil investments, climate change, and other touchy subjects, he decides to distance himself from the crypto one. Absolutely baffling. Then Munger, who I have to applaud for at least giving his opinion, makes the case that Bitcoin is somehow the worst thing that's happened to humanity because apparently kidnappers use it. There are hundreds of different ways to look at the bear case regarding crypto, but suggesting that it's terrible because it's used for criminal acts is rather baffling considering that kidnapping and extortion have been around for centuries and kidnappers and extortionists have used something called US dollars and other world currencies to succeed in the same crimes. It would be one thing to prove that Bitcoin has caused kidnapping and extortion to jump up, but making your bear case by somehow suggesting that Bitcoin is used by criminals, therefore it's evil, is rather unimpressive. He then goes on to say he wouldn't shovel money at a financial product created out of thin air. We can evaluate this statement for hours, but everything we have ever created comes out of, quote, thin air. Options, ETFs, index funds, swaps, all kinds of financial instruments are created out of thin air. These comments only add fuel to the theory that Warren and Munger are out-of-touch elites. Next comes one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting question of the night. Take a listen.
This question comes from a long-term shareholder who's been here for more than 25 years. His name's Ben Knoll. He's from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And he says, Mr. Munger and Mr. Buffett, after a 15-year period of market underperformance, you're cautious about predicting Berkshire being able to outperform the market in the future. Given this, what do you see as the arguments for longtime shareholders to continue holding their stock versus diversifying their risk across an index?
Okay, before I reveal his answer, I just want to set the mood for a second. Any other CEO being asked this question will go on and state why they believe their fund or company or enterprise is growing and expects great things for the future. Now we know that Berkshire is a rather special case. They are a financial fortress and people treat their stock more like a savings account, one they could trust with their life earnings. So beating the S&P isn't exactly the primary objective for Warren and Munger. However, an investor could easily treat the S&P 500 index like a savings account as well. Historically speaking, if you were to place your savings account in such an index, you would have little to no worries, especially over the last 15 years where BRK underperformed the S&P. The risk of significant loss is essentially as high as the risk for America to completely fail. When you bet on the S&P, you essentially are betting on the country. Those are Warren's words, not mine. So why would an investor really look to push their chips towards Warren? Listen to Charlie and his bizarre answer.
Charlie, you want to answer that?
Well, sure. Well, I personally prefer holding Berkshire to holding the market. So I'm quite comfortable holding Berkshire. I think our businesses are better than the average in the market.
Is it because you don't think the market values it fairly?
Well, these are just accidents of history, and things are fluctuating at all times. But on a composite basis, I'd bet on Berkshire over the market. That's assuming we're all dead.
You can almost sense a hint of awkwardness there. He says because he prefers Berkshire. That doesn't really answer the question, and while he may be potentially holding the truth back because he takes offense to the question or something, it doesn't really help new young investors who would love to hear why investing in a value monster like BRK is the right move. In fact, even I would like to know the truth. Why would you place your bets on Berkshire over the SPY, for an example? If he believes it to be undervalued, then go ahead and say it. I'm not sure why one would hide that, other than the fact that they plan on doing more buybacks soon. Now it's Warren's turn, and he answers the question like this.
I recommend the S&P 500 index fund, and have for a long, long time to people. And I've never recommended Berkshire to anybody because I don't want people to buy it because they think I'm tipping them into some side. Never. I mean, no matter what it was selling for. And you know, I've made it public. On my death, there's a fund for my then widow, and 90% will go into an S&P 500 index fund and 10% of Treasury bills. On the other hand, I'm very happy having my future contributions to a group of charities that will be spread over 12 years or so after my death to stay in Berkshire. I think the odds are Berkshire is, I like it, but I'm not. I do not think the average person can pick stocks. We happen to have a large group of people that didn't pick stocks, but they picked Charlie and me to manage money for them 50 or 60 years ago, and so we have a very unusual group of shareholders, I think, who look at Berkshire as a lifetime savings vehicle, and one they don't have to think about, and one that they'll look, if they don't look at it again for 10 or 20 years, that will have taken care of the money reasonably well. But that I wouldn't argue that the S&P 500 over time. I like Berkshire, but I think that a person who doesn't know anything about stocks at all and doesn't have any special feelings about Berkshire, I think they ought to buy the S&P 500 index.
His response also doesn't really answer the question either. Warren is basically suggesting here that investors take the S&P over Berkshire. Now, I don't know if he's being sarcastic or witty, but there really isn't a good logical reason to admit that BRK will likely underperform the market. We know from comments in the past that the truth is rather complicated. Buffett has been often quoted saying that BRK will underperform unless there is a massive market correction or depression. Berkshire does extremely well when everyone panics, and with over $100 billion in cash, the same can be said for the next time a situation like that arises. Now, why he doesn't come out and say that is rather bizarre. Instead, he just scuffs off the question saying, "Go ahead, invest in the S&P, you dumb idiots." We cater to long-time investors, and I'm not in the business of advertising my company to new investors, which is fair considering that he doesn't need another dollar, but it kind of comes off as a bit arrogant. Tell me what you think about their opinions regarding those two questions below, and as always, please make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are enjoying my content.